Okay, we've got several roster changes with the Eagles adding a few different names, while the starting spot next to Nakobe Dean may officially be settled. Plus, James Bradberry is getting reps at the slot, which I couldn't agree more with the logic behind that move. And Lane Johnson said Jalen Carter's better than this All-Pro. But first, let's run it. Hey guys, I gotta thank everyone so much. We just passed 14,000 subs in less than 6 months, which is crazy. You guys are flat out awesome. So tune into our live stream this Thursday of the Eagles' third and final preseason game versus the Colts, where those of you that know me know I might just do something crazy as a little thank you for all the support. Although maybe not something as insane as claiming the Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields is more talented than Jalen Hurts. If you have no clue what I'm talking about, according to a report, an NFC executive spoke with NFL reporter Matt Lombardo about the expectations of Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields, saying there's no reason why Fields can't be a poor man's Jalen Hurts. If you put enough talent around him, you can definitely win with him as your quarterback, which alright, that's fair. I have no problem with that. However, it's what former NFL receiver and Fox Sports analyst James Jones had to say that's ridiculous.
And you got two number ones and a number one tight end and a number one running back and a number one offensive line and a number one secondary and a number one defensive line. The team is winning. But when you talk about individual players and you say poor man's, right? Justin Fields at the quarterback position is more of a talent than Jalen Hurts.
I'm sorry. Now I know at least half of what these guys say is to get a rise out of people, but here I go. It's insane to think Fields is more talented than Hurts.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay, Jones also argued that Fields has better arm talent and rushing talent, which, fine, that's not so outlandish, yet the biggest aspect the NFL analyst is failing to realize is the mental ability. After all, I'm pretty sure most of us recognize it's not always the guy with the most physical ability that leads to the most success. Now, I'm not saying Fields is going to be a bust. I actually think he's going to play really well this season, but let's pump the brakes on calling it disrespectful to be compared to Jalen Hurts, especially because this dude was just put on the Sports Illustrated football preview, which comes out in September, adding to the plethora of awards and accolades and endorsements the QB's racking up. So yeah, I'm taking Jalen 11 times out of 10. Although maybe not on the golf course. I mean, I've never actually seen Justin Fields swing a golf club, but Jalen could probably use some tips from MJ on the links. In other Birds news, the Eagles made 10 roster moves, signing defensive tackle Robert Cooper, who's a 6'2", 335-pound undrafted free agent out of Florida State, with, according to the Draft Network, a great ability to anchor against the run, but may struggle to generate any kind of pass rush. Marvin Wilson was also brought back after having been with the Eagles in both 2021 and 2022, playing in one game each season. Not sure if he makes the roster, but as Bleeding Green Nation pointed out, the DT is at least familiar with the team and scheme, so should at the very least be a good late camp ad. There was one more interior D lineman brought in UDFA Caleb Sanders out of South Dakota State, as he'd previously been with the New York Giants in rookie camp in the spring, and may be slighter at 6 foot 287 pounds, but at least flashed at times as being a really good athlete, which is kind of similar to the story of Tyreek Maddox-Williams, a linebacker who's a Philly native and had previously been with the Chargers this spring, but showed up a little smaller than listed at 6 foot tall, 228 pounds. And then Quentin Bell is the other linebacker actually having NFL experience, being drafted by the Raiders in 2019 in the 7th round before getting released and signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where he played a little bit of special teams and then bounced around with the Falcons, playing a little on defense as well as special teams again. None of these guys feel like long-term additions, but obviously with the recent injuries, the team needs more bodies, especially on special teams. So who knows, maybe one of these guys earns a spot. On the other side, the guys who got released were wide receiver Tyree Cleveland after suffering the neck injury and concussion in the preseason game against the Browns, and cornerback Zach McPherson with the torn Achilles and will miss the entire season, as well as defensive tackle Noah Ellis, yet not exactly sure what his injury was. But in case you're thinking, gosh, that's harsh, the release is really just procedural, which means if they go unclaimed, then they'll revert back to the IR, where they'll all remain under the team's care. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but not entirely sure why they couldn't just immediately go to the IR. My assumption is that it has to do with the roster numbers and it affects something to do with that, or maybe how many guys you can carry on the roster in general, but I have no idea, honestly. So let me know in the comments if anyone has a clue of why it works this way. Unfortunately, 2 guys are gone for good, with the Birds releasing cornerback Greedy Williams after continuing to struggle throughout camp, and punter Ty Zentner after learning it was his social media post for how everyone learned about Jalen Hurts' lock screen background. All right, not really. However, Alexis Chasen wondered if that might have been a factor in getting released. I'd say no, not really at all, because Legatron was absolutely abysmal in the last preseason game, with punts averaging less than 40 yards and the hang time being not good. I was hopeful for Zentner to win out against Aaron Siposs, but he was sadly below average at best. Yet Siposs isn't exactly the answer either, since he's also not been very stellar this summer. Still would love to see the punt god Matt Ariza, but if it hasn't happened now, I don't think it will, and we'll end up getting stuck with Siposs again, which is a little concerning to say the least. Another concerning aspect has been the recent injuries, where the Eagles were back at practice flashing a CVS receipt for an injury report, with Britton Covey, Fletcher Cox, Mekhi Garner, Kyron Johnson, Morrow Jomo, Hassan Reddick, Trey Sermon, Nolan Smith, Greg Ward, and Quez Watkins not practicing. I'm not too concerned about most of those since there aren't really that many major injuries, yet Nolan Smith being held out is at least something to keep an eye on. Remember, the Rook came out of the game on Thursday with what appeared to be a shoulder injury, but then said he was fine and it was just precautionary for why the Birds kept him out, except now he's missing a practice. Admittedly, it was a light session, so it's most likely not a big deal. Although with Hassan Reddick already out until at least the first regular season game, I won't lie that it does have my awareness heightened to see if this is possibly a bigger deal than the team is letting on. Cornerback Mekhi Garner is also dealing with an ankle injury, which I don't recall overhearing from the game Thursday, so I'd imagine it's not serious either, yet it does perhaps open the door for Eli Ricks to grab a roster spot. So far, it sounds like the consensus is that Garner has made more plays during camp and flashed better on special teams. However, as we all know, Pick 6 Ricks didn't get that nickname for no reason. Plus, it feels like to me that the Eagles will end up keeping 7 corners on the roster, and with Greedy Williams getting released, I think it only speaks to how much Desai wants to get these young guys more reps, so it wouldn't surprise me if it comes down to the final preseason game against the Colts to see who wins out for the spot. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments, and what are the implications of getting rid of Greedy? One major surprise from practice was that Justin Evans was with the first team along with Reed Blankenship at safety, leaving Ed Cracks to say the Eagles like him better than most think. I don't know, to me, I feel like this is just Desai continuing to try out all possible combinations. Sure, he did flash on Thursday in the preseason action, and the Enquirer's Jeff McClain wonders if it's a legit thing since camp is nearly over. And that's a fair question, but it would definitely shock me if Justin Evans was announced as the official starter. Maybe I'm wrong. It also sounds like Marcus Mariota is locked in as QB2, who certainly helped himself on an impressive deep ball to Devin Allen for a touchdown, only to follow it up with an ugly INT to James Bradberry.
Who saw that coming?
Well, I think we all did. Yet that hasn't changed the Eagles' stance on who's the QB2.
We were pleased with Tanner's development, but Marcus is our backup.
All right, that's fine. Mariota may be there for now, but if he goes out and plays poorly again against Indy and McKee balls out, surely there'll be a stronger consideration for a change. The more notable change to point out right now, though, is that cornerback James Bradberry has been getting significant time inside at the slot position. And while it's obviously not a permanent move, I love to see the All-Pro being utilized in different alignments, because even tight end Dallas Goedert has recognized the weakness in the secondary.
Anytime they get a run on the nickel, it seems like we have a lot of success. I don't know why that is, but hopefully it stays that way.
All right, before anyone runs with that, and just to make sure, Goddard was joking with nickel cornerback Avonte Maddox, who had ducked into the presser to heckle and have some fun with the tight end. And Maddox actually had a really strong practice sticking with Devontae Smith on a vertical route and then blowing up a tight end screen to Goddard when he slipped by Zacchaeus. But going back to Bradberry at the slot, I think that's an awesome move, and I agree with the Philly Voice's Seamus Clancy, who wrote, when facing an opponent with a quality tight end, the Eagles should be putting their most physical corner on the tight end to prevent mismatch nightmares for the Eagles' weak linebacker core and inexperienced safety group. Plus, let's not forget the Birds have some really difficult tight ends on the schedule in Kansas City's Travis Kelce, 49ers' George Kittle, Minnesota's TJ Hawkinson, and then Darren Waller, as well as Buffalo's rookie tight end Dalton Kincaid. Don't get me wrong, I love Maddox, but there's a couple concerns for me with his health and just overall size and physicality at 5'9" when lined up against some of the best tight ends in the league. So I'm all for Bradberry playing some slot. How about you guys though? Would you like to see Bradberry lined up against some of those tight ends? Despite some of the uncertainty and tinkering Desai continues to do, it looks like we may be getting a picture of who he's settling on for linebacker, as Zach Cunningham, who started with Nakobe Dean on Thursday, once again got the bulk of the first team reps while showcasing his ability to make plays. Okay, it's not like this job is settled or anything, and I've talked about it more in other videos, but it seems like the weak side spot is coming down to Cunningham or the Buddha, Christian Ellis. However, there's no debate that Cunningham is the more sure tackler. Again, I really like Ellis's ball hawking prowess and quick reactions, but his inability to bring down the ball carrier at times makes me think it's looking like he'll lose out to Cunningham. Yet the competition isn't over, so Ellis may be able to put up a strong showing on Thursday to change some minds, but if not, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to have the Buddha on special teams, since there's obviously several massive holes, having lost linebacker Sean Bradley to an Achilles injury, and then also another special teams ace in Zach McPherson that I mentioned earlier to the same injury. And let's not forget, Ellis has been someone that head coach Nick Sirianni praised on multiple occasions for his special teams play last season. Speaking of that praise, All-Pro tackle Lane Johnson has one defensive player as his breakout candidate.
Jalen Carter's going to make a lot of noise this year. I really do. I think he I think he can play right now and play at a very high level right now. So I'm confident in him. I mean, he's kind of similar to Hargrove with just, his pass rush ability. I mean, he's bigger than a Geno Atkins, but pretty twitchy, man. 6'3", 320. So he's like a bigger Geno, I would say. Most time he's inside on the guards. Every now and then he'll line up outside. He's a guy that if you're playing high, he'll get the best of you. He plays very low. He's very strong, and he's very quick, lateral quickness. So, he's made a lot of people look silly in camp so far. But, yeah, man, I've been very impressed with him from day one. I think he has tremendous talent, ability, and he plays hard.
Bro, don't give away all the secrets on how to block JC. But seriously though, to be compared as a bigger Geno Atkins, who also went to Georgia for those that didn't know, is definitely some high praise, as Atkins was a 3-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler who recorded 75.5 sacks in his 11-year career and was also named to the NFL 2010 All-Decade team. Yet after hearing that, John McMullen still thought Pave the Lane undershot the comparison a bit. I feel like Fletcher Cox would also agree, who's a member of that same NFL 2010 All-Decade team, having said a couple days ago that the Breadman probably should have been the #1 overall pick. And for Goddard, it's absolutely no question.
I think Jalen Carter. He's been getting a lot of hype. I had to try to block him twice today, and it wasn't easy. It was actually, I don't know if you could even consider it blocking. Man, I held on for like a half a second. I was out of there. I said, I don't know how they do it, man. This dude's a problem. So I'm excited he's on my team, though.
What can't the Rook do? No, seriously, what can he do? After Martin Frank reported JC lined up wide on one series and then dropped back into coverage to pick up wide receiver Deon Cain. I mean, it's unreal at this point. And I think what sets it apart from other instances is that there's so many vets on the team coming out and publicly saying Jalen Carter is the breakout candidate, which tells me they're supremely confident in his ability from what they're seeing. Unfortunately, I doubt we'll see JC in the final preseason game, since I think he's more than proven he's ready, but that doesn't mean we won't get to see a lot out of the practices, which quite frankly goes for everyone, with Kenny Gainwell continuing to be the featured back during 2-minute drills and fourth quarter scenarios. However, Sirianni wasn't afraid to get after the RB on one of the final plays of practice, when according to the Philly Voice, Gainwell got the ball, followed a block, and then broke free toward the end zone, but let up assuming the play was over before Sirianni started yelling, "Unless you hear no Moss, it ain't no effing Moss, so keep running." Not gonna lie, I'm a fan of that intensity. And apparently rookie receiver Joseph Ngata was also the victim of some special Sirianni vocabulary after appearing to not know what play they were supposed to run. Jalen Hurts also had a decent day, going 13 for 19 with 1 touchdown and a sack, courtesy of Josh Sweat. And Hurts also threw a pick after a really big play from Slay, where Josh Tolentino said the 32-year-old vet showed tremendous awareness on a pass breakup while shadowing Devontae Smith on a crosser. The ball was tipped into the air, and then Slay was able to track it down right in front of the sideline to record the interception on Jalen. Glad to know the nickname still works. Just a little more time before the regular season, but I think it's safe to say we're starting to feel the levels get turned up. This has been the Philly Special.